Hello, welcome to the Reloading Codcast. Sounds good.
It is Lent.
Oh, brother. And it's only Tuesday. Take two. Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. And for the last time, presented by Primary Arms. This will be the last time Primary Arms is sponsoring the podcast. They were sponsoring pretty much everybody on the network, so they're kind of downsizing their sponsorship and going different directions. I don't know if they're sponsoring other shows on the network still or not. To be honest, I greatly appreciate their partnership, but I mean, Reloading is such a small bit of their entire business model. So, I mean, the fact that they've been a sponsor for 2 years has been pretty awesome. So, thank them. Thank you for all their wonderful teamwork and cooperation. So, but what else is new and exciting?
Not much. Not much.
Nick, what's new with you?
Finally got one of the rifles, or some of the stuff that Mike had for me, and we did our little exchange finally. How long has that been? 2 years in the making?
Something like that.
So,
well, the presses you've had for that long, the parts gun, which you turned into a firing gun really quick, hasn't been that long.
But yeah, if anybody hasn't seen that, so Mike picked up where he works up there at Cabela's a Peruvian 1891 Mauser. It was a parts gun, and we did a little bit of trading and some bartering, and yeah, I had that less than 24 hours, and I already had it out the range. And Mike's not happy with me right now about it because it's a tack driver. That gun.
I mean, it is what it is. So
it's a tack. Now, it's not the prettiest gun on the outside. There's some pitting, but the bore is mint. And like, look, I was worried about the brass, feeling okay. The bore looks good, but I was thinking, okay, what kind of case head separation am I going to get? Absolutely nothing. And yeah, perfect primer pocket or primer strike. Yeah, nothing. And it was incredible. And yeah, we were drilling a 6-inch plate at 100 and an 8-inch at 200. Yeah, so if you haven't seen it, go check it out. I put a short out yesterday on our channel, Millsip Duo, on the first shot. Other than that, yeah, it was shooting great. And
bringing steel at 100 and 200. So.
Yeah. Other than that, we got some new books come in with that K98 we picked up a couple weeks ago. Dad decided to finally break out and pick up the K98K books. So
very nice books.
They have pretty much anything technical data you need to know on any K98 that's out there. Cool part about it, you can go, for instance, ours is a .44. You can look up and it talks each little series of it. Okay, the butt plate's supposed to be stainless. It's supposed to have this marking on the front side, and just kind of it walks you through every single part on it. So other than that, that's about it. House goes on the market tomorrow. It sounds like there's a lot of interest in it already. So we'll see how that goes. Counting the days left in this terrible state. Other than that, that's about it for me. Excited to start the new job for sure. So,
what do you got? 2 weeks yet?
My last day at Farm and Home, my farm store job, is Thursday, and then next Wednesday is my last day at the state. So,
okay, and then you start on the 22nd.
I start on the 20th.
The 20th. Okay,
so it'll be here before I know it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So hopefully the house is sold by then, or I don't see it. I think I'll probably have an offer by Thursday.
If not,
my guess. But
if not, we'll work through it.
Yep.
Congratulations. It's a nice move. Nice move.
Other than that, nothing new on this end.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it was nice to see you guys in person.
Yeah,
Good. Yeah. Good.
yeah.
Been a while.
I'm glad it worked out, and nice. We did it early enough. The whole day wasn't ruined, and
Oh no, got home. And,
John's hand loading wants to know what rifle that was you were showing that brass from.
so that's so this is actually sick. It was from the rifle I got from Mike. So the funny story. So it's exactly what a 1891 Argentine is. It was another contract they did through Germany, but what they ended up doing is once the rifles got to Argentina, they couldn't pay on them, so they sent them back to Germany. Peru ended up buying them,
had them remarked.
had them scrape the old Argentine crest off, put the Peruvian crest on, and sent them to Peru. Changed some sights around. Other than that, yeah. So it's the same cartridge as the Argentine, but yeah, this is 765 Argentine.
But what brass is it?
This is actually converted 270 brass.
270.
So, but other than that, it's a fun little cartridge. We were shooting both cast loads and FMJ. The cast loads have worked really well with that powder charge. We were getting great SDs and ESs, so that's definitely a keeper load for that. So,
For ugly duckling, it sure
Oh,
shot
gosh.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
have to admit, I was very, very surprised.
Yeah, it's like I said, I told you earlier, everybody should carry some 5744 in their bag of reloading tricks, because it can do a lot of different things in different cartridges.
yeah, it's a powder. I'm newer. It's a newer powder I've been playing with in the last couple of years. Between this cartridge and some of my other cartridges that are from that 1880s into the 19 teens, a lot of those cartridges have that as a powder that can be used. So I started to play with it, and I've had good results in everything I've shot it in so far. So it's definitely going to be a mainstay on my bench.
Is that the same powder you use in your the Swiss Vetterli?
Mm-hmm.
Swiss Vetterli and
Vetterli, this
LaBelle. Did we shoot that
LaBelle,
LaBelle?
probably 4 or 5 other cartridges.
Yeah.
So it's a definitely keeper.
Yep. Oh,
There we go. Third time's the charm.
yeah.
I tried to add him 3 times, so.
I was just telling Nick, tell Mike to let me in. I don't care what Paul Loud's paying him. I'll pay double.
Just so everybody knows, that was 5744. Okay, that's the powder that they're talking about. So
You'll agree with me, Paul. It's a very forgiving powder.
oh yeah,
You can put nice light loads in. You can push it a little bit, and you're not going to notice issues on either end.
yeah. Like I say, it was an original powder for the 223 5.56. They just didn't like it because it didn't flow as well through the automatic machines loading cartridges.
Yeah, and that's why I've noticed it was kind of a little bit of an issue throwing through my throwers, but for what I'm shooting, I don't need precision loads. But
Yeah,
for
but
what I'm seeing, it's working. I'm not going to mess with, especially this load when I'm getting, I think extreme spread was 30, standard deviation of 10 with a cast bullet. That's incredible. That's not changing. That's a done deal. Sticking to it.
And you're not stressing the gun
No.
at all.
No, you feel like you're shooting a 223 at most.
Yeah.
So
I believe that's a Hodgson powder now, isn't it? Or was it an IMR?
no, it's a Hodgson.
Hodgson,
No.
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because it's in that
Accurate.
It's
It's
accurate.
accurate.
Accurate
Yes.
now. Okay.
Yep. Which
It
is
was
all.
it was originally an IMR powder.
Yep. I do remember that.
Yeah, it was
Looking that
originally an IMR powder, and then Accurate took it over.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it is
Excuse me.
a very
Sorry, Chris.
a very interesting powder. It will go through a powder thrower okay. It is better than that. I think it's better than Trail Boss and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can load it low, or you can push the pressures up on it, and it works.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got Chris over there. He's hiding in the light. There we go.
Well, I'm getting those two throws set up, the AT4 and the Charge Master light. So
Okay. Yeah, this is about throwing powder charges today, guys. So we throw powder charges with what? Just open the canister up and fill the case up to the top.
That's right.
There are some guns that and powders or combinations you can do that with. I just isn't going to recommend it. That's all. Jordan Reagan. So are you using a 308 bullet in that gun then, Nick? At 7.65?
No, that's actually a 312. So
312,
that's
okay.
So that mold, if you want to hold that up, Dad, and
Yeah,
show
it's
it around. That's the Lee 312 185 1R. So it's there.
Okay.
So other than that, it's a good bullet for both. For that, for 303 Brit. It works in a wide variety of cartridges.
Yeah, and we run about a 15 Brunel.
Yeah, about a 15 Brunel. Yep. Yeah, powder coating. That's about all we're doing anymore. I don't remember. Those are gas checked, aren't they?
I think so.
Did we gas check them?
I'm almost sure we did.
Yeah. Yeah. Our mold's casting them a little heavy. It's casting about a 187, 188.
Yeah.
So by the time you get the gas check on there, it's about 190.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's running great. So.
Yeah, because when you we didn't slug the bore on it, but we took a cast through. I mean, a standard 312 bullet, and it pretty well swallowed.
Yeah, it ate close. You had probably a 1/8 of an inch
between the neck,
neck and the case and the muzzle. So you had
some wear.
You had some wear, but for a cast bullet, I'll probably end up slugging it for sure. I eventually want to get a true torpedo bullet, which is what it would have been designed for. So I would love to get one of those eventually. That's not high on my list, but this is working just fine. So we're going to keep running with it. So.
Yeah, it seems to be, it's funny, you're getting the 6.2, then the 6 to the 6.5, and how the difference in bore diameters go, that extra, 4 thousandths of an inch bigger.
Yeah, then you jump to 7.7, which is still right in that same ballpark.
Yeah,
there's so many cartridges right in that small little range. But yeah, because you got anywhere from 7.62 by 63, which is your 30-06. 7.65 is your Argentine. 7.7 by what is
the jab?
That's the jab, and 303 Brit is 7.7. Then of course you get your 8mm, which is a 323. It's you got all those
7.62 by 39.
Yep. Yeah, you got all those right there. 54R. Which is a 311, 312. So,
yeah. So you're everybody's all sitting in there from the 308 to 312.
Mm-hmm.
And
What I tell most people at Cast, if you can find a good mold, even at a 312 that works in most of your guns, you can size down to a 308 and run it in your 30-06 or your 03s or even your 308s. You can have one mold that runs it all. You just got to get your different sizes. In a way, there's certain you can run, and
That's pushing her down there. You'd have to step it down. But
So you're saying we should call it Precious?
you could, in a way. I've never pushed. We have a specific 309 mold that we use, but when Lee molds are only $30, why not just get another mold that's designed for it? But if there was only a way to have one mold, you can only have one mold, you could probably do it.
Yep.
So what's new with you, Mike?
I have 3 shot shell presses in my truck
There you go.
and some 303 brass that is boxer primed, as opposed to the 64 pieces that I found while I was looking for something for Nick that is Berdan primed.
it's all reloadable.
That's right.
That's right.
Hey, once you find that, just go ahead
once
and
I
use
find
it.
what I was looking for. So Brian Nixon had given me a couple of his boxer or his Berdan priming conversion kits. They're somewhere in this shit show. And so when I was double checking with Nick Sunday morning, he reminded me to try and see if I could find that. And, well, I'm guessing it's behind me, buried underneath all that stuff in a tote, which half that crap is my kid's crap. So we got to dig through that and find it. So, and then I can punch primer holes. But I was, if I didn't have this set up for tonight's demonstration, then I would take the FW Arms decapping die and slap that puppy in there and see if we can punch that, punch a new flash hole.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I have this just as a display. So anyway, so we're talking about throwing powder charges. How do we figure out how much powder to use? I mean, we've got Paul's method where you just you take your loading block like so, and you just pour powder until all the cases are on top, wipe the rest of that off, dump the powder off, and then you seat your bullets. Is that the right way to do it?
Sure.
Well, I mean, you can do it that way.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
If
Well,
you
if
want to see your kids again, but
Hey, Paul, it's
What?
not black powder. It's smokeless.
Well, I understand, but you just use a slow enough excuse me. Use a slow enough powder and it all works. I mean, what the heck? We're being super accurate here. I mean, right? It's just level it right off to the top of the case. I mean, the case has been measured and trimmed and everything else. You just level it right off there.
Yep.
Isn't that how we do it, Chris?
Only if you're shooting a 6.5 Creed.
Oh, okay.
You can do whatever you want there.
Because it needs more, right?
It's the super cartridge.
I think they say spec, consult your reloading manual.
Yeah. When in doubt, dig out the cookbook.
Yep.
Or 3 if you have that many.
Or in
5.
like the lowdata.com. That's a good resource. I'd kind of
That
steer away
reminds me,
from
I gotta get
forums.
that reminds me after the show, Nick, I gotta get that information from you so I can get off my dead carcass and get that signed up.
sounds good. I'll get that email pulled up so I can get you the information.
So like Sierra. See, the problem is I can't remember what we used for setting up my 550. Just the cases we're gonna powder charge tonight are 223s. So And no, not 5.56, because I'm loading into the 223 standard. So
Okay, so we H4895 and load 20.
no, we're using accurate 2230.
Oh, okay. What weight bullet?
55.
55. Okay, because with a 69 grain with 2230 at 22.5.
You know, I suppose if I didn't use it as a hat rack, I might be able to get it to throw a powder charge. Now, Paul, what I'm doing is I put a can underneath,
Mm-hmm.
and then I activated the.
The slide on the charge bar.
Yeah. Now, is this going to be completely accurate?
Well, it depends. How long ago did you throw the powder in?
Actually, that I just put in Saturday.
Okay, so it's got, with normal vibrations in the house, it's got to settle a little bit. But operating the press for 5 or 6 operations of the charge bar will even it out, and you'll be able to get a pretty standard charge with a ball powder and that type of powder the powder device.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we would do is do an average, say of 5, total it up on your scale, and then divide by 5 to see what we average out at.
Now, why do we have to do all that extra work?
Well, sometimes.
Why is it that I can't just throw one charge and have it be
100% accurate? Right. Well, it's because, again, powder has to settle, things have to move, and your press needs to and powder and charge bar all have to align themselves and be working consistently.
Okay. So does the powder dispenser on the Dillon, does that go typically by grain weight or by volume?
It's a volumetric measurement.
Okay.
So you have to adjust it to the grain weight that you want by loosening or tightening a screw. Mm-hmm. Or a knob if you've replaced the screw with a knob.
Like I have.
Okay. Or some of them even gone down to having a micrometer on it.
I'm not that fancy.
Yeah. So.
So now, like this here is a Reading powder dispenser, so this is volumetric.
Yep.
This is what they look like. So this is kind of just chilling. I mean, if I had a 5-station, I could put this in there and use that. Sure. in lieu of a
in lieu
of that powder thrower. I could use this, but I'd have to manually actuate it. So
yeah, and there are
that
some,
actually I could just take that out.
Yeah. There are some powder dispensers that will work with that or like that you can that'll attach to it that will automatically move it and still work in the 550.
Yeah. The other option, and this is the more common option, is to get some sort of mounting bracket. Now this is an RCBS one, so you can kind of see it's got a little different measuring here, you can see the difference between the two. The RCBS is a little not so fancy of a micrometer. It's more of a basic, not really graduated like the breading is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is the more common. Either you unscrew your die and screw it in there, or they actually make a bracket too that you can bolt onto your bench. So,
Well, with the 550, you can pick this piece right here up from Armor off to add you, so you can actually dial your powder in.
Sure. Yep. And the same thing with that Titan reloading has got those options too. So I mean, there's a lot of options to make that happen on your 550 or 650 or 1050 press that you have. Same thing with the RCBS. The RCBS micrometer can be swapped out for a different drum and different micrometer, so you have a better feel for the adjustment.
We got a question from Patrick Sire from Facebook. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Is that good evening,
Anyway.
gentlemen? What's your guys' thoughts on BLC2 powder? I've had great luck with the 223 bolt gun topped with the 55 grain soft point boat tail. I've never ran BLC2 in my ARs or in 223 bolt guns. I've always ran it in old milliscope cartridges, like 8mm. The Mauser, it works good in 303 Brit,
308,
308.
306.
Yeah, it's a good all-around powder. And I was just looking up for like regular 223 loads. It's got a nice wide range of charge weights, so it's one of those another powder that's very forgiving, and so
It's a good powder. I look at it as a planking powder.
mm-hmm.
It is a double base powder that meters well, measures lousy, and accuracy wise, I put it in the middle to the lower part because it's a plinking round is how I look at it. I think I am more enamored with the stick powders for more accurate loading in the 223s. But that's just me.
But kind of going back to kind of talking about different powder measures and everything. So I have a system that we kind of copied off yours,
Mhm.
and yours is from.
Well, it was handmade by a guy I've seen on the internet.
Treetop
Flyer,
Yeah, Treetop
but he
Flyer.
don't make them anymore.
No, so it's I don't know how it's gonna come up. I can post some pictures in the Discord and on the Facebook later. So it just has a way where it sits. Let me see if I can turn your brightness. Adjust it. It's playing the game.
You may have to just twist the camera a certain way. There you go.
There we go. So yeah, the powder measure just sits right over the top, and I have a powder through die. I just run the case up, and I can just charge it, and then of course, every fifth round I can check. That's good when I'm going pretty quick. But if I'm doing nice hand loads, I'll use my Frankfurt Arsenal IntelliDropper.
If we're making plink and load, you don't mind being a plus or minus or tenth.
Yep. So yeah, that's nice and you can use, and then just quick right through, and so. But yeah, you can make that if you're handy with a welder, you can make that for $20-$30.
Yeah, $20. Yeah.
So and it mounts right to my inline fabrication mount, and yeah,
Nice.
it's super easy. So and I have setups for my RCBS, my
Just lost you there, guys.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Dad hit the mic mute button, but
Mhm.
yeah, for all the RCBS Lee, my Lyman, my black powder one, we're gonna be making one for here soon. Once I get a house and the bench set back up, so the bench is completely tore apart right now. There's nothing on it.
You won't be reloading for.
No.
If you can't reload, Nick, start buying the Freedom stuff that you're now going to be eligible to buy.
I know. I can't wait.
Now, the thing that we talk about with these powder throwers, and I'm going to use that word because that's what they are, the volumetric powder throwers, is how do we get a consistent throw out of them? Okay.
The biggest thing is consistency and movement. If you're going to go fast, go fast. But the problem is going fast is it's not going to always pick the charge up properly. The best way to do it is go slow. And then, if you want to tap it before you dump. So keep in mind when your micrometer is down at the bottom on this style, your chamber is now facing up and collecting powder. So what some people will do is they'll tap here. Some people will tap the handle. Some people will tap the powder hopper. It's a light tap, not a heavy tap. I don't know, Paul, maybe you get the sledgehammer out. I'm not sure, but.
Well, I'm a little stronger with it than that, but I come up and I'd use the handle and I come up and I hit tap, tap, and then I go down. And then when I go down, I go tap, tap. That settles powder down as far as everything goes, and make sure that I clean the powder out of the thrower. Then I go back up, tap, tap again, and down. But everybody's going to have their own way of doing it. But it definitely makes a difference in how even the charge is to what you're doing, because you have to repeatedly do it the same way every single time. Anytime you go off of that, you're going to have an off charge.
Consistency is key.
And it differs from powder to powder how much you got to tap and whether you got to tap.
So here's your open empty chamber. Mm-hmm. And typically there's two of these. There's one that's pistol sized and one rifle sized. This is the Redding one I took apart. Here is the plug or the stopper, for lack of a better term. And what this does is this sits in like this. And as you move it up or down, it either goes in or out, opening the cavity or closing the cavity.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just, so you got it down. And you're filling the powder. Then you rotate it up. And you're dumping the powder. So you will notice as you look in here that the powder isn't straight across, but the way this is set up, it's actually set offset just a smidge. So that's how that works.
Now, what's the other issue that we have with those type of throwers?
Depending on the type of powder, it chops.
Okay, stick powder. It has a difficult time with stick powder as far as it cuts the stick powders that are in between the two chambers. So you have a very sharp edge on the thrower itself, and then on the metering drum you have a very sharp edge there. So between the two of them, it will chop and cut powder kernels. We don't have a Lee here, but Lee has a powder thrower that uses an just call it a plastic, a flexible plastic um, cutting edge that allows the stick powders to pass through without doing a chop to them.
Yeah, believe it or not, I've had good luck using like for the Lee Perfect powder with a H4895. I had really good luck.
Which is a difficult powder because it's a long stranded stick powder.
Yeah. I think I threw my disc powder measure in the garbage because I think I wasted more powder than I ever got. But the Perfect powder, I've had really good luck with it for a $20 measure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pleasantly surprised.
And I've thought about picking up the new deluxe one that's got the metal center housing and kind of doing a comparison. It's like $60, so it's a nice. Is it worth that little bit of increase in price?
Sure. Considering what they want for a Reading or an RCBS.
Exactly. Is it? Can you do everything with it, and can it still do your nice stick powders? It might be something we try eventually once I get my setup back up and going.
Yeah.
So we've kind of handled the basic throwers that the big 4 carry. Dylan.
But wait, there's more, Paul.
Oh yeah, I know. I said the basic 4. The throwers, the basic 4.
No, I was talking about the powder dippers.
Yeah.
So basically, what these are is their little cup. So, and they're all graduated. They're all in cubic centimeters. Bless you. And so then they have a corresponding chart.
Yeah, slide. You got. Oh boy, no one knows how to use a slide rule anymore. So I don't know if they can do that.
Yeah, probably not.
Who in the audience remembers how to use a slide rule?
I don't think we have any takers.
I know how to, and I'm actually probably one of the younger ones here.
Yeah, but that also has to do with your job.
We don't use it. I've never used one at work. I will say that I've never used one there.
Yeah.
I've used it for, of course, the reload, and I've used it. And then when I was in high school and elementary school, we had a couple of them that we had to use for certain things.
Problem is when Nick was in high school, Paul was retiring from his 3rd career.
3rd or 4th?
Give him the benefit of doubt, at least 3rd.
Okay.
It was. Yeah, the slide rule is what I use to figure out things like how much dirt, how much concrete, and everything, all those kind of things. So,
how wide for the chariot axle?
Yeah.
So,
the bearing surface of the chariot axle, yes.
Mm-hmm. So. John's hand loading said his 20-year-old son uses them as a machinist. Yep. So, okay, so then we've got, and I'm not going to continue to pull my camera down. So, Remy's getting yelled at. Ollie's mad because I got all this stuff on the floor, so he can't.
Going back to those little Lee dippers, the only thing I use them for anymore is like when I'm making Martini Henry or Snyder. you got to take that and make a filler space. So like using cornmeal or cream of wheat, they say like the 2.2 cc one's perfect. You just dip that in there, level it off, and dump it in, and that's the only thing I use them for anymore.
There's other things. I mean, some of the people that bought the V2s and the V3s, the auto tricklers, use them because they didn't actually have a dispenser on top of the for the charge originally, so you could go get away cheap. They were about $280 for a for auto trickler, where you would just go in, drop the main charge, and it would trickle up. So yeah, it could be worked out that way.
I'll admit it. When I first started reloading, when I was 18 years old,
Well, yeah.
couldn't afford a scale because I didn't even want to buy the beam scale. I used dippers all the time. Went by Lee's book.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
My .38 5-shot group of 308 Winchester was done with powder dippers.
Yeah.
So, you got your volumetric, and now we're going to start getting into actual grain weights. So we got all sorts of stuff. A couple of O-House scales. And I can say a couple of O-House scales because that is an RCBS 505, which was still made by O-House, as opposed to the M500s, which I don't know who makes them. Then we get into a little fancier. So we get the Lyman 6 and then the IntelliDropper. And down on the floor in its box is a shelf decoration. Hornady GS 1500. So
I think Chris has got something over there too for us to show with another.
Yep. So I'm gonna solo Chris here.
Of course, I caught him in the middle of dinner.
Yeah, when you're running late from work and it's like, oh, crap, gotta get everything set up.
Dude, you should use some Kleenex.
Thanks, Paul or Mike.
So we get a good one on the right hand side, and we got a great one on the left hand side.
Yeah.
So the difference in price is the one on the left hand side is about $900 now.
Yep, 900 versus about originally when it came out was like $299. You could probably pick it up. I think I picked it up like $250, $225, something like that.
Yeah.
And this actually discontinued because they revamped it to a different one.
So the one on the right will read to a 1/10 of a grain.
Yep.
The one on the left will read to 200th of a grain. So,
Hey, Chris, what's the note on the one on the right for?
Because I may or may not have forgot to shut that little thing a few times. And it makes one hell of a mess.
Yes, it does.
But the big things I've noticed, like I was telling Mike when I got that AT4, it's like I was a kid in a candy store. The wife was just shaking her head at me because I had it set up that night and playing with it. I've noticed, obviously, it's a hell of a lot more accurate than the Charger Master Lite, but it's extremely faster because on average, like with the Superformers I have in there, I started just comparing because I was curious. I was looking on an average about a 10.9 second per charge on a 60 grain charge compared to 24.44. So definitely faster, a lot more accurate, and quieter.
And if he uses a progressive or semi-progressive press, he can even go even faster.
Yep.
Well, Mike was going to show us the scales and presses and powder measuring devices that he's got.
So, I mean, basically, it's just both of these have caps. Unfortunately, on the new one,
You want to take me off camera, Mike, so you can see what you're doing, or
Yeah,
everybody can see.
I got to get re-entered. So,
So what we're doing is we're going to get ready to get into actually, as the books describe, weighing the powder charge. Because the cookbooks that we dealing with are telling us that there are certain weights of powder that we use per weight of bullet in that caliber, and depending upon the type of powder that we choose.
so on the Lyman, this door here, and then there's this gate here. So that is your valve. Whereas on the Frankfurt, it's got a valve like the Lyman does. So, not the Lyman, but the
RCBS.
Yeah, that's it. So when you put powder in, if you know you're not going to do a lot of measuring, then you don't have to put a lot in, because then you don't have to take a lot out. Usually there's a cap. Unfortunately, the cap for this during the show wound up back there, so it's going to stay back there. Now, the one thing I've noticed with my Frankfurt Arsenal is it likes to drift a bit, so that's been annoying. I've been watching it while I was sitting here, so. But sometimes when you throw powder, or when you fill the powder, you do get a little bit come out sometimes. So you want to make sure you clear your pan off and re-zero. And also check your level, make sure your level's straight, which that one is. So this one here doesn't have a level, so you just kind of run with it. So basically you enter 3, and then when you're ready to throw, you hit enter. And as it gets close, it'll stop, and then it'll throw. And as you leave it sit, sometimes you'll see it's a little under, like this one is. So on this one, you see the target number down here. So it's a little harder. Here's your go button. Then you can hear the Frankfurt's a little different noise. That's interesting sounding.
Mine sounds nothing like that. That's odd.
Yeah. That's weird. And as you can see, it's taking forever to trickle.
Have you taught that one yet?
What do you mean?
Have you ran it through a number of times with that powder?
No.
Okay, so it hasn't been taught that, which IntelliDropper needs to be run a number of times with that powder to understand what it's doing.
Yeah, no, that's the first load for the ball powder I've thrown.
Yeah.
Everything else I've run through the IntelliDropper is all one stick.
So,
but as you can see, it's kind of really slow. But purposefully so. Because you can see that one, 22.3. This one's 22.2.
Drop one off and compare the two.
What do you mean?
Dump one into the powder hopper, and then
run another one.
No, now take the other scale, dump it into that one. Yeah. Wow.
That's interesting.
Is it the pan?
No, it wouldn't be the pan.
No.
Use the same pan.
Yeah.
Really? Oh.
Now, normally you can't do this, but because I know it's the same powder.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when they do their charges, they'll put the dust shield in place. So. So once again, this one's under. And this one is going slow, as it's wont to do. So running with scissors, you say yours sounds like that normally too? So I have a Hornady too, but it's in the garage because it doesn't throw powder anymore. Scale still works.
Okay. I thought you were going to say that was a lawn decoration now.
No, the scale still works. I mean, I could theoretically
try to warranty it. See if they'll fix it for you. Send you a
they
new
won't.
one. Oh, they won't.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
So that one says 22.3 this time. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw that into the 505 and put that back. And then we're going to take this and then we're going to pour it here.
What the heck? Interesting.
So now we're going to come over here and we're going to go 22, 3. Not.
Nope.
Oh, what the heck?
That's not 22.3. So now we'll take this one, which was originally the Lyman, and we'll pour it in there and see what we get.
Pretty close.
Closer than the other one was.
Yep.
What the hell? Units or grains?
Really?
So I hit the powder calibration button on the
Oh,
Frankfurt.
okay.
Yeah, for a second, I thought I was going. I think I can. I think I can.
Yeah.
But this is what Paul was talking about partially by learning is they have a powder calibration button. So it's
Right.
theoretically supposed to understand how it throws.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's very similar to like the Super Turtle and even the AT4. You have to do a calibration. So one, it primes the tubes, but it will run through a bunch of speeds to kind of sort stuff out too.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's allegedly 84.6 grains. Let's see what Lyman says.
I think there's a problem there.
Yeah. No. Let's see what this says. So what was that? 84.6?
Yeah.
70, 80. Was it 84.6?
That was what the Frankfurt said. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's not what this says.
Now put it on 64 grains. Yeah.
So,
The Frankfurt one needs to be recalibrated
yep.
big time. Anyhow, so we're talking about one of the important parts right now is checking your scales to see if there's a problem, and no one should have just one scale or balance.
Dooby-dooby-doo. Okay, so now let's see what happens. We've recalibrated the scale. Notice how it runs a bit smoother now that I did the powder calibration.
And faster.
Yeah.
Boy, that last tenth.
Right. Survey says
Wow.
41.
0.2.
That's 0.1. That's 0.2. I think this is sticking a bit. It keeps slapping that. So I don't know how it got twisted, but is it beam bent? It doesn't look bent.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's kind of weird. It's not sitting in there normal.
Now would be a
Yay.
good. Now would be a good time if you had check weights.
Yeah,
That
I don't
was-
have the certified weights. Whoa, look at that thing going all nuts.
Mm.
Hmm.
I wonder if you got some electronical interferences there.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, could that be causing it? The having the other one right next to it?
Possible.
Anyway, what I'm gonna do, since that 505 seems to be not playing nice either, we'll set that over off to the side. Then we'll get out the fancy one. Doobie doobie doo. Eh.
Hey, Mike, Gen Champ Jr. has a fix for you in the YouTube chat. Just put an earth magnet on it.
Hell yeah, right there. That'll get it done. All right, so 41.2. Let's see here. 40. No, that's not 40. That's 25, 30, 40. $1.2. So it's a little heavier than 41.2.
Okay, Spudman 76.
Everybody's a commodian.
Yeah.
So I've got it 44.4.
Wow. Wow. 3.2 grains more than your Lyman.
Interesting.
Very.
So lots of fun.
Which
Which beam scale, Paul?
beam scale?
No, not you.
10. Oh,
Paul
okay.
Loud. He wanted to know, was the beam scale leveled at 0? This one? Yes. This one was. The other one, I don't know, because it's being cantankerous. So, because there's something goofed up and bent somewhere because it's not floating like it's supposed to.
You gotta check. You gotta check the family jewels there.
Yep.
Just so everybody remembers that a balanced beam like that runs on a set of jeweled V notches and a knife edge V to provide minimum friction for the scale. Silver Dog, try running LEDs in your room. At the cost that they are now, they beat the heck out of fluorescents, and they're cheaper to run. The use of certified weights is always a good thing to have, and one, you can verify your weight with it, your scale with it, and two is you can verify your dispenser.
So it sits in the knives fine. But then it wants to torque. So yeah, that's something wrong with that. I wonder if that's not even the right.
You got them mixed up?
I don't know. Maybe. I can't have that mixed up. Because those are totally different types.
Okay.
No. No, I don't think so.
You don't have that old Reading around, do you?
Oh, I don't know where it is.
Okay.
But here's the problem I'm seeing.
Looks a little wonky there.
Yeah, I can't even get the 500 weight all the way to the...
Uh-huh.
So I'm wondering, was that originally bent way out and then it got smushed? I'll have to look later. Anyway.
Yes, check weights are your friend, guys.
Yes.
Verify your scales. Verify your load. You know, everybody has check weights. They're usually between 20 and 30 grams, and you need check weights that are in grains that you can run up, you know, whatever you think your maximum loads are going to be. If you're running 70 or 80 grains, you may have to buy 2 sets of check weights because they only run up normally to about 65 grains. They normally the lower ones are pieces of wire, stainless steel wire that are cut. They're not. They're class 1 weights is what they are. They're not real expensive because a real expensive set runs $300 to $500 for a set of check weights. But don't confuse them with the 20 and 30 gram weights that you have for your scale to calibrate your scale. Because if you think about it, an average, say a 100 gram check weight is about $100, and as they go down in price, and weight, you still with 50 grams, a 20 and a 30, you're still looking at about $50. And if it's included with your scale, then we're sitting there looking at take $50 off your scale, and that's what your that's what your scale is, because the check weights are going to be that way.
So it looks like on that it's actually supposed to be bent.
Okay.
And it got straightened somehow. So I'll have to look at the pictures. I found some pictures on eBay.
Okay.
And I'll have to see if I can't.
CJ Galt put up a thing that we ought to highlight there, Mike.
Yep.
As a former lighting professional, I can say all light fixtures put off some level of electromagnetic field. LED and fluorescence are the worst. EM fields do affect piezoelectric scales. Okay. Can you quantify, is that just with a load cell type, or is that including the magnetic resonance scale? Because I'd be wondering, because a lot of labs have LED and fluorescent lighting in them, and they use much more highly sensitive scales than what we're using. Oh, computer monitors are also a problem. So we have to go into a candlelit room.
Sweet.
Dealing with gunpowder.
Well, if that's the case, let's just use a kerosene lamp.
Yeah.
I'll have to tweak that later. I need pliers for it, but yeah, so this white piece here, you can kind of see a little more now. I had it was straight out. It's not supposed to be straight out. It's supposed to have a kink to it. So you can kind of see in the picture there. So that would be part of the problem with the scale, but that doesn't explain why these two things were on drugs. So
Okay.
Well, I don't know if the Lyman was on drugs versus the Frankfurt. So, but anyway, so Let's see here. Let's zero that. Because now I've got my actual O house that's been sitting there for a while, and it literally is at 0. So now we'll check it.
Well, in some of these scales, Mike, I know the RCBS, if I remember correctly, said let it warm up for like 20 minutes to make sure it's going to be accurate.
Yeah.
Justin, I thought we were supposed to be learning something useful about scales. Balances or scales, sir?
I don't know. What's he thinks useful? That they
We're
fail?
talking. Everything has to be checked, right? I mean, we're talking about checking our powder throwers, by throwing 5, maybe 10 loads into our pan and then checking our weight. And then we're talking about using check weights to double check that our charters are right. So, yeah, we just everything is circular here, so we have to check everything, right? The only thing we know for sure is that our actual calibration, our actual test weights are going to be close, within, I would say, 1/100th of a grain.
Mike, do you have a 55 grain bullet handy you could just drop on that one scale, see what you get?
Yeah. So, and by the way, it came out, it just threw a 24.1 charge. So,
I know that's not a check weight, but it'll give you an idea.
yeah, something's definitely wrong with Frankie. It's at a 55 grain bullet weighs 27 grains.
Yeah.
Yeah, something's wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong with that one, no doubt.
Yeah.
Frankfurt's gonna be getting a phone call.
Yeah, really.
Yes, they are. Now, the Lyman isn't much better. It says 50.6.
Wow.
I wonder if they're getting some sort of.
They are powered up right next to each other. So, I mean, in all fairness, that
I'm
could
gonna
be
give some
part of
sort of
it.
I
interference.
wonder if you unplug the Frankfurt and see what the Lyman does.
That's what I'm going to do. So we'll let the Lyman sit for about 5 minutes. Actually, we'll turn it off. And we'll turn it back on. We'll follow IT directions. Turn it off, turn it back on. Oh, by the way, when you're playing with powder, keep one of these handy. It works well for brushing off the powder. So. All right. Let's see how we do. Reset this to 22.3. Come on. Just a smidge under.
Tenth.
Yep.
Okay.
Same charge twice in a row.
There you go. Scales interfering with each other.
Yep. So there you go.
Isn't the Frankfurt Bluetooth?
Allegedly. I don't think I have it set up yet.
Okay.
So now we'll unplug the Lyman. I'll plug the Frankfurt back in.
I think what Mike needs, Justin, is a new house so he can have the computer monitor and everything put in a different spot than the powder measures. So if you want to donate that, he would appreciate it.
I have a working balance. The O house I busted out. So that wasn't.
Well, I'm just saying, he's.
No, I'm talking about his comment. I need to find a working scale balance to donate to poor Mike. So.
And the Lyman is working.
Yep.
And if I remember right, Justin's got an AT4. So.
I mean, if he wants to donate the AT4 to me, then,
That's what I'm saying,
Oh my gosh.
Running with scissors. There has to be interference. No way both are incorrect. I'm not an electronic scale expert, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. You're on the road again running with scissors? Okay.
Oh, good grief. Yeah, so I think maybe I'll take the Frankie, put it out in the middle of the backyard with a extension cord. We'll see how well it works. It stopped at 20.1.
Oh.
Let's run the powder calibration again. Just see if maybe it'll work. So. But yeah. So.
Now then, gentlemen, a question for you. How
Yep.
often do you calibrate your scales?
Every time I turn it on.
Same here.
Every single time I turn it on.
Yep, every single time I turn on, and then like with my Frankfurt Arsenal, every time I change powder, I'll run the powder calibration.
Okay. When you calibrate your scales, do you ever stop and do it or in the middle of loading?
I'll run a check weight every so often,
Yeah.
maybe.
Okay.
When I used to use this thing, I did.
Okay. I can see why.
So.
I have a hard time with battery operated items versus wall wart plug-in type.
Oh my goodness, this thing is annoying because it would only I mean, you'd try and throw a powder charge. And the other thing, that thing does not have the ability to trickle.
Uh-huh.
So.
If I'm doing a long reloading session, I will recalibrate maybe halfway through just to double check, to keep everything going, because there's certain things in the room that will happen to a scale. In other words, there's temperature, humidity changes and stuff like that can cause a scale to drift. Even a magnetic resonance scale, but especially a load cell. Load cells are extremely sensitive to drift, temperature changes, and the computer programs that are in them that run them are not exactly the most robust. Yes, Justin. We calibrate every use, even if you never powered off the equipment. Things change. There's not a room in the world that has a complete 100% climate controlled, unless you're in a $5 million NASA laboratory. And even then, I begin to wonder.
Yep.
CJ Galt. Yes, I remember that 504 scale that I was looking at it. You got it cleaned up and working. Nice.
504 scale.
A 504, yes. 504 was the big one. It was the very large O-house scale that had the weights on the top, and you had a dial for your smaller charges. They were very, very nice. They were a $200 to $300 scale, balance beam scale.
Oh.
At the time. And he showed it to me that he got it. I think he bought it from somebody, and it was in pretty rough shape. And I told him to clean it up because it's a really nice scale that is very, very accurate. Idaho Rogers, if you're working at 1/10 of a grain, you're doing fine. I try to keep mine in the 200ths of a grain. That can make a difference. But 1/10 of a grain is close. And sometimes horseshoes and hand grenades, that's all you need.
That's right.
Well, as a Midwestern, I should say horseshoes, hand grenades, and cornhole, right?
No, horseshoes, hand grenades, and occasionally nuclear weapons.
Okay.
Spudman 76. Is it best to let the scale warm up before calibrating it? Yes. Always.
Mm-hmm.
Hand grenades are fun, pal, especially when you make them yourself.
Yeah.
Just don't tell the ATF. They get cranky.
Amatol's fun to work with.
Oh, that's not very good.
Are you caressing it that way, Paul?
Wow.
In order to warm it up?
I'm not even going to comment on that.
He's from Maine. Don't ask, don't tell.
Right? So the first one after the reset through a 22.4.
Okay.
Now it looks like this one. Might have been. It's in between 22.2 and 22.3.
Close.
Yep.
Sounds like there was interference between the two of them. So, and Paul Loud, we understand you're not going to divulge all your handling secrets.
So, weighing your powder charge. Lots of different ways to do it. The key is being consistent. And making sure
double checking, even triple checking your charges.
Yep.
And the things that you need are a set of check weights.
Yep.
A good reloading manuals. And don't believe everything the internet tells you. And when I mean that, I mean you read on a blog somewhere that, 62 grains of H1000 is going to do XYZ in this cartridge. That's not what I mean by a good a good reference for a load. I'm talking, Hornady, Lyman, Spear, Sierra, and a number of other books from Western and Accurate Arms to get your load data from.
essentially trusted resources, not Jim Bob off the internet.
Right. Check your scales often. Keep them clean. Keep them out of the dust. Keep them from getting banged around.
Yep.
Same thing with with your mechanical scales. The same thing. Keep the dust off them and everything else. Your electronic scales, warm them up at least a half hour beforehand. Turn them on and get them warmed up and used to the temperatures that you're doing. And depending upon how long you plan to load for, try to keep the temperatures the same without any air currents or anything else in your reloading room, because they will affect your scales and your balance beams too, just so you know. This is the one part of hand loading that the safety is up to the user.
Mm-hmm.
And as was used to be said at the beginning of this show, we're not here to give you load data. We're here to discuss loading procedures, and anything that you do is up to you. And please be safe.
Indeed. So one of the things I was just doing right now is something that you should do as soon as you're done loading, which is get the powder out of the electronic scales. So it's kind of a pain because you got to still run it a little bit to get it out. So
why are we doing that, Mike?
Why?
Yeah.
Multiple reasons. First and foremost, so you don't have just a smidge in there and then all of a sudden switch to a different powder, and now you got two different types of powder.
Oh, okay. That could be fun.
No.
Could be deadly.
Correct.
You blow your face off.
Yes, it could.
And the other thing?
So you don't wind up with stuff like this.
Okay.
Here, let me enlighten that a little bit.
Looks a little nasty in there.
Yeah. So somebody left a ball powder of some sort in this for a really long time. And
Yeah.
that's what happens.
One of the other things we didn't catch was that things like dryer sheets and anti-static sprays can help you in keeping a consistent load.
Yep.
And the third thing, Mike, that we have is that we have humidity can build up in your powder and cause different reactions in the powder, slowing it down or speeding it up, depending upon which way it wants to go.
Yep.
And you could get a very heavy load while it still reads lightly on your scale because it's dried out and the powder reacts faster. Or it could go the other way and the powder is heavy and you get actually by volume, you get a lighter load.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chris, how is your AT4 expanded for you as far as your reloading?
I mean, I've only been playing around with it, checking out the app that goes you use for it and all that. Honestly, I think it's definitely gonna up my game as far as
Okay.
accuracy on the throws and stuff. I think I'll see the amount I reload in one sitting increase rather than as slower as that our CBS went. It would just take more time. I honestly think as fast as that uh, the AT4 throws, I don't know. I think it's obviously going to be a hell of a lot faster than I am at grabbing that cup and dumping, grabbing and dumping.
Mm-hmm.
But
So you could see loading on a 550 or a 650 with it.
yes, because as you know, that's one of the things I've been starting to do is I'm getting the additional items I need to do more loading on the 550. That way I can just keep it set up and a lot faster than the uh, Forester. I mean, my Forester is still going to be my go-to for a lot of my long range and precision rounds, but I want to kind of see what I can do on that 550 now that I have something that throws a little bit faster.
Understand it can take a long time. Why
Mhm.
it the RCBS would take to throw it? Were you only talking 10 seconds on the AT4?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, like I was saying, when you're looking at a difference from basically 10.9, just, you know, playing around with a random number to basically 24 and a half, you're essentially cutting your time in a little over half on each throw. I know it's going to vary depending on the charge that I'm doing. If it's a small charge, it's going to throw faster. If it's a large charge, it might be slightly slower. But overall, I mean, that's kind of telling you there's a big difference between, like you were saying, a good one and a very good one.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how you work with the AT4 and your 550, and when you go with your Armanoff setup, are you going to run with a 2-shell plate or a single shell plate? Single tool head or dual?
Just gonna go single
Single?
head.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I was kind of looking at. I think it was originally when I kicked this around. I think it was F Class John, maybe that was doing it. Yeah, I think it was F Class John that was doing it. Oh, he did a video a few years ago about it, and he was using then. I think it was the AT3,
Mm-hmm.
and he had the whole setup. And of course, I got similar stuff that he has now. You know, it's just little things that have come out since that have made it more easier to do without having to, as like I don't know, a little duct tape to kind of marry things up. People have actually, the aftermarket side has caught up and it's like, well, hey, we want to do this, and people are 3D printing stuff, machining stuff that is the actual proper setup.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious. I mean, I've already got the new bearing set for it to get rid of the one that comes from Dylan and stuff, and some other upgrades. But it's right now is finding the time to do it, because doing some remodels around the house. Well, the better half is like, hey, we need this done. Hey, okay.
Yeah. Better 3/4 has got you working too hard.
Yeah, and then of course you get people that, hey, I need you to Cerakote this, and it's like, okay.
Well,
Yeah.
that's making money now.
Oh, I know.
That's your future there. So I'm still waiting for you to get your lathe. So You know, so I can send some barrels out to have you turn some barrels for me.
I gotta get my shop back from my wife because we're getting ready to have all the floors resetted in the house. So most of the furniture is in my shop right now. It's not sure how that happened.
Does the air dry work on your floors?
What's that?
Does the air dry Cerakote work on your floors?
Oh, trust me, I've thought about it.
It's tough to be off of them for 14 hours, right?
Yeah. But I know on these electronic scales, to kind of get back on, one of the things people need to, you were talking about the atmosphere in your reloading room.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even, some like with the AT4, heck, even with that RCBS, you don't even want to breathe on things because I've just blown on them just to see how sensitive they are. They are pretty sensitive to a little bit of breeze.
They are. And so, yes, you have to be aware of what you're doing. And, if it's, 95 degrees outside, it's time to shut the air conditioner, get it cold enough in your room, load till it gets up to 70 degrees, stop, turn the air back on, get it down cold again, and start over. But shut the air conditioning down in between. So
Don't have a ceiling fan on in your reloading room.
no ceiling fans, none of that kind of stuff. Turn the TV off, guys. Just just use a scale. That's it. You're fine. You'll be much better off. Use dust shields. The other thing is that ground your electronic scales. If you can, drive a separate ground rod for your scales outside. You'll find that they're very sensitive to lightning.
What do you mean by a separate ground rod?
An 8-foot ground rod driven into the ground 8 feet deep, and then have a wire run to your scale.
Like just touching the scale, or to the outlet your scale's plugged in, or
I have it wired to the scale itself, to the feet of the scale.
okay.
The reason I can tell you about that is I had one fried.
Okay.
And when you're looking at a $500 scale getting fried, it gets a little yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Now, did you have it plugged into the wall, or because mine's plugged into a power strip?
Oh, mine was plugged into a wall outlet.
Okay.
And in conduit, grounded, and everything else.
Right.
But lightning is, I don't know, just a little bit more than 120 volts for some reason.
Just a smidge.
Yeah.
1.21 gigawatts.
Yeah.
By the way, if you're bored and you're on O'Reilly Auto Parts website, they actually have the flux capacitor listed as a part, and the Mr. Fusion.
There you go.
So the reason for that, somebody was literally just pirating their software. And so when they rewrote one of the softwares, they put that in so they could literally haul the person into court and prove it. Judge went, yeah, case settled. So,
yes, John's hand loading. Yes, $8 rod or a $500 scale. Do the math. It's pretty much a simple thing.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Yeah. No, I was just kind of wondering how you had it, because a lot of, if you get the better power strips, theoretically, those should, if you
Mhm.
don't have the, say you're in an apartment, you don't have the ability to run a ground rod and a ground wire. Some of your more expensive power strips not only guarantee protection against lightning, but also will replace anything that's plugged into it.
If I was
You
gonna
have to
do,
register it, but
yeah,
yeah,
if I was gonna do that, I would buy a uninterruptible power supply. It doesn't have to be a big one,
right. That's
but
probably your better option.
yeah, and
So
because it's gonna give you
it's also
clean
clean
power,
power. Yeah.
right? So, um, that's the idea, that I would tell people to do.
Hmm.
If they're running if they're running something that they're worried about losing,
Yeah.
and if they don't, Indiana is known for its unclean power and brownouts, and
You dirty state, you.
yeah, and there are a lot of other states that are like that. Missouri's
California.
got that. Yeah, California is big time. And it's what what we're going to be dealing with in the future.
Hmm.
So word out to the people that a $90 uninterruptible power supply and a ground rod that's $8 or $12 might be a pretty good idea.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's wrap this thing up here. So,
Okay.
I think it was a good episode because we kind of showed what can happen if you get electrical interference. Not intentionally, we wanted to show that, but we did. Showed you why having a regular scale is important if you have electronic scales, and a good one versus a cheaper one. Also, why you want to make sure you maintain them and don't just toss them in a drawer with a bunch of other stuff, like I did with my 505, and that's why that white thing got bent. So, um, basically, the biggest thing is be consistent. If you're going to use the powder dippers, you don't scoop. You push it. What I did with mine, I was loading 748. So I would push it down through the powder, let the powder fall into it, pick it up, and then take a business card and scrape it off. Is develop your consistent pattern. Check it to make sure you're being consistent in your powder dispensing, and stick with it. So,
Yeah.
want to take time to thank Patriot Patch Company.
Whoa.
Dun, dun, dun.
We got two of them out there.
Yeah.
Ah.
Is that
Well,
a
Chris-
foul?
Well,
Yes,
for
it
Jim.
is.
For Jim, crinkle, 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 crinkle.
Yeah, I was gonna say Chris had to pretend to be Jim. Yes, that is an FAL and a Beretta 92.
With a suppressor. Yeah.
Yep. We actually have two FALs at work right now.
Ah.
And they piss me off because they don't fit in the racks properly. So,
Are they DSA fouls?
one's a Century.
Ooh, no.
The other one I don't remember.
Well, Paul, it depends on when it was built by Century. My L1A one's a Century, but it's an early one, so it's got a Brazilian in-bell receiver.
Okay.
So it all depends on when it was produced by Century.
Well, I understand. I mean, Springfield Armory is the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, you get one that's now, and but I got one of the early ones, and
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm trying to
that kind of gives you a little better look at it, John.
Yeah.
So,
The handguard and magwell is what gave it away for me, and the pistol grip.
yep. So, but I don't remember what the other one is.
probably a DSA.
Yeah.
I won't lie. When I looked at the patch real
They're
quick
both
before
900
coming
bucks,
on, I
so.
thought the girl was flipping me off for a second. I was like, "What the?"
And then you notice the 92 at her hand.
Did you say 900?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
good
a good
deal,
price.
actually, for an FAL. That's a good deal. I'm shocked you're still sitting on them.
You know what? Most of the people don't understand that, the difference between metric and inch in a
Mhm.
FAL. So anyhow,
Sorry, I was chuckling about Idaho Rogers. Yes, great show. I learned that filling the case to the neck, leveling it off with a putty knife, then smashing a bullet in is wrong.
I do that. What's wrong with it?
If you're using,
Uh,
he said I meant FAL is odd shaped fit in a rack. Yeah, mainly it has to do with the location of the frickin' sight, just like SKS's
Mhm.
and some of the AKs. The way that frickin' sight is, it doesn't fit in the gun rack very nicely.
Yeah.
So, anyway, trials and tribulations of gun counter people. Who knew? So,
My last day buying a gun counter is Thursday. It's gonna feel weird.
mhm.
6.5 years. Oh,
Well, even when I get to the point where I don't need to be at Cabela's, I'm still going to stay there because of the discount on
Yeah.
everything else. So, but anyway,
nothing wrong with it. Discount is good.
Yep.
Um,
well, especially when it's 50% off anything Cabela's or Bass Pro branded.
yeah.
I'm gonna miss the expert voice. Is what I'm gonna miss the most.
That too. I was looking on there for for trail cameras today. We have raccoons out back, and so I'm going to put trail cams out to pattern them so that I can sit out there with my pop-up blind and my my dad's Silver Streak. Actually, I don't know. Should I use the 20 cal on it, or should I step up to the 22?
Well, first off, I just sit
They're
there and look.
raccoons.
First off, I just look at it and just get a 22 long rifle and shoot the CB longs.
I have a neighbor behind me. I can't do that.
CB longs don't make any noise.
Well, I've got shorts for that matter.
Well,
Yeah.
Mike, we saw a great option at Shot. Suppressed 50 cal. There you go. Thunderbeast makes a great suppressor for it.
There was 5 raccoons there a second ago.
Well, I thought I saw that they had that suppressed 338 Lapua Magnum in a chain gun.
That was a Norma mag.
Oh, Norma. Oh, excuse me.
Oh, John says shorts won't kill raccoons. Ask me how I know.
Well, how'd Serena get rid of her problem?
Those weren't raccoons. Those
Plus,
were
she won't tell you
exactly.
for
And
legal
yes,
purposes.
shorts will too kill raccoons. You just don't try and shoot them through the skull. You shoot them in the ear hole. Gosh, darn it. Anyway,
Eye socket works too.
yes, it does.
All right, gentlemen.
Yep. On that note, gang, keep your brass shiny.
Jump on the Millsap short bus.
Teach them to shoot and reload when they're young.
Shoot smarter, not harder.
Grandpa told me, don't listen to your mama. Violence does solve problems, gentlemen.
Especially when you
that-
use C4 properly.
Yeah. With that, gentlemen, we leave it to you. And
Make sure you support the Second Amendment. Second Amendment Foundation really needs our help right now. They've got 6 major cases going, plus probably 30 other minor cases. They had $3 million in legal fees last year, so and they're anticipating that's going to double this year. But I guess there's some other groups out there, you can choose. The SAF's the one I support. So, also, if you're struggling, 988 or 1-800-273-8255, reach out, give them a help, and give them a holler. and they're there to help you out.
And one other thing, guys, Patreon. Sign up.
Thank you.
$1 a month. Come on. We got a lot of members here. Give us something to keep going here.
Thank you. All right, gang. Have a good night.
All right.
Good night.